Good afternoon and welcome back to TVP World. My name is Alex Smolinski and these are the latest updates in the world news. And we begin this hour with the news that Russia has announced it will not agree to a temporary ceasefire with Ukraine, rejecting ideas floated by Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky and French President Emmanuel Macron. Now the news comes as European leaders are attending war talks in Belgium aimed at shoring up support for Ukraine and accelerating Europe's defense industrial base. We are now joined by our EU correspondent Angela Skujins from the Belgian capital. Angela, so what is the latest on how this extraordinary meeting is progressing?
Yeah, so it's really interesting that you raised that point of Russia rejecting that ceasefire proposal floated by the French president. It really underscores just how important these talks are in Brussels today. We have no idea how this news is playing out behind the scenes in the corridors of power. But what we know so far is that the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is in attendance today, has posted on social media platform X that he has finished his presentation to EU leaders regarding what Ukraine needs on the front lines to weather Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. He announced on that social media platform that he was grateful for the EU's ongoing support. These platitudes were echoed this morning where he fronted reporters at the European Council building. Here is what he had to say this morning.
It's very important. You made a strong signal to Ukrainian people, to Ukrainian warriors, to civilians, to all our families. And it's great that we are not alone. We feel it and we know it. Thank you so much for everything. And signals to increase our production and signals to, with the new program, to increase the European security.
Yes, so it's really interesting, those comments there, because what we've heard from that US President Donald Trump is that he's paused sending military aid to Ukraine. He's stopped intelligence sharing. So this is the EU trying to step up to the plate to offer Ukraine support in the forms that it can. But the other item that will be discussed today is ramping up Europe's manufacturing of weapons, of arms. This proposal has been broadly supported by European leaders, including Poland's Prime Minister, Donald Tusk. Here is what he told reporters today regarding this push that is being spearheaded by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and will be voted on today.
We have no other choice. It's not our choice. But we have to do this. And I'm absolutely sure that Russia will lose this race. Exactly like the Soviet Union 40 years ago, with exactly the same result. And this is the only way how we can effectively save peace.
Yes, but what is particularly interesting is that we're hearing that from our sources that Slovakia has changed its tune and will vote in support of these draft conclusions. There was rumours there that they would not, but a concession has been made in the conclusions that the European Council will lobby the European Commission to resume talks with Ukraine for those gas transit flows. But the issue here, the elephant in the room, is Hungary. Many are expecting Hungary to block these votes, the vote in support of this measure. We've heard from Viktor Orban, that country's prime minister, that he claims he will not vote in support of any measures that put question marks around the ongoing ceasefire negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. But what we've just heard, obviously, is that Russia is not interested in at least supporting that 1 month truce floated by those European leaders. But we'll wait and see regarding those formal outcomes as they will be revealed at a press conference later this evening, which we'll be covering for you. But that's all from Brussels.
All right, that was Angela Skujins coming to us live from Brussels. Thank you very much for that comprehensive report. Now, for a long-lasting peace in Ukraine, cooperation between the U.S. and the EU remains a crucial factor, said Polish President Andrzej Duda at a joint press conference with NATO chief Mark Rutte. The meeting comes amidst that emergency European summit in Brussels, where EU member states have gathered to discuss boosting European defense industry.
The transatlantic relationship and the transatlantic partnership remains the bedrock of our alliance. President Trump has made clear its commitment of the US and his commitment personally to NATO. And it has also made clear the expectation that we in Europe must do more in terms of defense.
The conditions of the future ceasefire, hopefully peace, should be developed in such a way that we are able to reconstruct Ukraine. Keeping peace and order in Ukraine should be possible. And to have that, we need a Euro-Atlantic cooperation. That is why, in my conversation with Secretary General, we said what is of fundamental importance is to keep the bond between the United States and Europe.
Now, the U.S. stopped sharing military intelligence with Ukraine as part of its suspension of aid, the CIA director said on Wednesday. Conversely, France continues to share its findings with Ukraine, with the French Minister of Armed Forces confirming the flow of information between Paris and Kyiv.
The nature and extent of Washington's intelligence sharing pause remains unclear. Some international media outlets suggest that the halt is selective and only applies to information that could enable strikes inside Russia. Despite the harsh move, Washington is rumored to be rethinking its move to cut off aid to Ukraine.
I believe what the National Security Council told me in regards to that was that they paused or they are reconsidering the funding for Ukraine, as you saw, the pause on the funding. As for intelligence matters, I would refer you to either the National Security Council or the CIA as well.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe also suggested that the Trump administration is likely to lift the suspension of intelligence sharing and military aid if Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky continues to demonstrate willingness to engage in the peace process. While the loss of American intelligence is a heavy blow to Ukraine's defense capabilities, Kyiv has supposedly found an alternative to its usual information broker in Europe.
I think for our British friends, who are still part of an intelligence community with the United States, it's more complicated. For us, our intelligence is sovereign. It took longer to build up our capabilities in recent years, but the advantage is that we did so using our own resources. So yes, we have intelligence capabilities and we are sharing them with the Ukrainians.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that his diplomats are working with their American counterparts to arrange for a meeting aimed at repairing the strained relationship between Kyiv and Washington.
Slovakia is to receive guarantees regarding the transit of gas through Ukraine during Thursday's EU meeting. That is according to the Polish press agency. Such guarantees are to be the main condition for Bratislava to not veto EU help for Kyiv. According to TVP World source, Slovakia is expected to be satisfied with this conclusion. Slovakia is not receiving gas from Russia as Ukraine terminated the transit of this resource through its territory at the end of 2024. And since then, Bratislava has been pushing for the supply to be brought back. Prior to today's summit, a Slovakian veto on EU help for Kyiv was to be expected if the ban on Russian gas was not lifted. Therefore, the EU Council is to ask the European Commission, Slovakia and Ukraine to intensify efforts on the gas transit issue. The leader of Poland's largest opposition party, Jarosław Kaczyński, had his immunity revoked by the Polish parliament. This follows a Polish MEP planning to sue Kaczyński for defamation. 236 MPs voted to revoke the Law and Justice leader's immunity, while 200 voted against the motion. 3 MPs abstained. During a meeting of the Pegasus Investigative Committee, Kaczyński is reported to have said that, quote, a prominent opposition politician is committing very serious and repulsive crimes, referring to Civic Platform MEP Krzysztof Brejza when they were in the opposition. The latter said he will sue Kaczyński for defamation in a private prosecution case. Jarosław Kaczyński defended his comments, saying he was stating an opinion rather than accusing the MEP. And that's a wrap for this hour of the World News, but don't go away, as on the record there will be the guest, the Polish Minister of State Assets, Jakub Jaworowski, who will talk about defense in Europe. Thanks for watching, and do stay tuned.